Well, I made it to Friday. Friday is Future Day. Friday is think about your leadership and how you're going to live a better life day. Friday is a day to get ready for rest and relaxation and perhaps worship and thinking about how life will be better for you. Rest, reflection, relaxation, worship. That's all a part of Friday. Well, it's also a day because my week was full. I still have a number of things that I have to do because some of the people who had promised to get things done for me by Thursday weren't able to do that. And a number of other things got in the way technology-wise. So I have quite a bit to do. But that's okay because it also meant that I had a moment to think out loud and to share them with you because I'd like to hear from you. And in particular, it's a very special day because I am celebrating the birthday, and I can hardly believe the number on her birthday of my youngest daughter, Megan. And so we have wished her and her family and a good time, and I was able to make sure that my card was on time and that my gift arrived just exactly at the right time, so I can celebrate that, and I think she's set for a nice weekend. So I am too. But before that, I wanted to share just a few things with you that might be helpful to you and give you something to think about, maybe to smile about, and to enjoy. So some random radio thoughts on Friday about naming children. Naming children. And then, of course, a little bit about thoughts about your own name and how you're going to deal with that. My name is Stan Houston, and the program is called Interesting Ideas, hopefully intelligent ideas, maybe insightful ideas. We'll see where it goes. The program begins right now.
'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend and not be ashamed, to turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right.
And we are back. Names, 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 names. Do you like your name? Have you ever wanted to have a different name? All right. If you were in my position and you had to perform, would you ever take a stage name? If you had to make up a name, and of course, that's what, of course, many actors and performers do. We call it a stage name. It wasn't their real name. It's just the name they decided for the performances and the show business they were in. In fact, one of the fun exercises we often did when we were working with people, just to get people to think a little more creatively, that, when they do a seminar, they have they give you something to make a nameplate, all right? And one time I told them that I wanted them to think a little bit more creatively. And so I didn't want them for the entire seminar, it's about a day long, to not use their real name. In fact, don't tell us your real name. Choose a different name, a name that you would like to be, or something like that. You have to have a different name. Well, that turned out to be, interestingly enough, one of the major learning things that happened to people in that workshop. As one of them said, Stan, that was the greatest exercise in self-discovery that I've had in a long, long time. It really got me thinking about me and my desires and things I like or don't like, or perhaps some of the people I'd like to model or imitate, or some of my heroes, or some of the people that were about me. So maybe that might be, if you are in the business sometimes of helping people think creatively, the old joke was that you should just give your children a number, your number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then at a certain age, let them choose their own name and see what would happen. And of course, that would be an interesting point, but someone then pointed out probably they'd just stick with the number. And a couple things brought this to mind. First of all, is that for some reason, my daughter Megan, and I still can't remember, and so I actually wrote to her today and say, I remember this little touch of cuteness in your life, but I can't remember why. And for a while, this must have been when she's 5 or 6 or something like that. She told us that she now wanted to be known as Miko Koki Dado. Miko Koki Dado. And I'd never heard that name, and I even tried to search it out, but that's what she wanted. And of course, she tried to insist on it for a while, and of course, we went along with it for a little while, but after a while, we kind of put an end to that. No, your name is Megan. And she didn't seem to ever have any real objection to that, but that's what happened. And then I thought about my brother. Now, my brother Richard, as my mother once said, is Richard should have been the most successful of my 3 boys. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way because he had a number of issues in life, but a lot of these issues came from the fact that he was incredibly persuasive and charming, and people loved Richard, And he had some other health issues that got in the way, but he was always as he would admit, he was always kind of on the rebel's edge of growing up. I was very passive. Richard was the rebel. And by the time we got to number 3, he said, it was easy for me because you guys had cleaned the slate, and by this time my parents were pretty well ready to just let me go with the flow, and I did. It was kind of easy. But Richard wanted to be called Tex. Now, of course, we're going back into the 50s and 60s, the cowboy western legends and those things. But he wanted to be called Tex, and he was really insistent upon it. He told people in school that he wanted to be Tex, and in Sunday school he wanted to be Tex. Well, of course, the problem was hardly anybody went along with that. And I think I sometimes wonder if that was part of the trauma in his life, that nobody would allow him to change his name. Changing names. Now, another thing that brings up is I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. My name, I can put Stan or Stanley Husted in the search engine, and almost always, in fact, I would say always, I come up number 1. There's no other ones, it's not like Jim Smith or something like that, where there'll be obviously hundreds and thousands and maybe millions of names. No, and try it. Now, I bothered me today because it was called Images of Stanley Husted, and it's some crazy guy on TikTok who I've never seen, never known, and how that snuck in to the search, most of the other stuff is is quite good. And sometimes when people say, where can I find out about you? I'd say, well, you can have a website about my business, but if you really want to find out about me and all the things I can do or shouldn't do or would do, just search engine me and see what comes up. Now, by the way, those of you who are in business and those of you who have some aspiring careers and even perhaps just, the ordinary everyday you, I had been recommending this as a usual tool for business leaders. Every once in a while, maybe more than just once in a while, just Google you. Put your name in and see what comes up. And maybe nothing comes up. Well, it doesn't come up right away. Maybe I have to really, 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 really go into it. And it used to be that there were times when, of course, nothing would come up because nothing was there. Now, that's very unusual today. That was some time ago, but now most of us have an online reputation performance platform. And as I tell people all the time, particularly younger people who are out looking for your first job, clean up your internet mess as best as you can. No. All of that stuff out there that you thought was so cute and so much fun, and who cares, now that you are no longer 16, 17 or 21, 22 in college, nobody cares about that stuff. And in fact, if it is a little bit edgy, it just might push your opportunities off the edge. So, maybe for this weekend, you can think about having a little bit of fun about your name. Perhaps eventually all of us will need, in some ways, a bit of a stage name. I many times thought of taking my name. Stan was okay eventually, and I very much tell people I loved being, when we were growing up, in a Polish town, because there the kids, many of them were Polish, and Stanley was kind of a short for the patron saint of Poland, which is Saint Stanislaus. And there's a big Catholic cathedral named Saint Stanislaus Church. Still is. You'll see them in Chicago and places where there are large Polish populations. And the nickname for a boy named Stanley was oftentimes Stush, which I enjoyed. I just did. But pretty soon I left that town and no one called me Stush anymore. I said Stan was okay, and finally Stanley was okay, but I realized, now this is interesting to note, is that the word Hustad is hard to say because it has too many S soft sounds in it, where oftentimes you need to have, if you are professionally engaged, you need to have the name that the syllables are almost all hard-sounding syllables, that they don't require S's or soft words which can be easily mistaken or mispronounced or not quite understood. And that oftentimes, particularly in radio and television, which again you're having to do more of, will be a part of what's in a name. Well, there we go. If your children are celebrating birthdays, give them a wonderful note. Tell them how proud you are. And then, just to make it fun and perhaps to learn a little bit more about them, just suggest, you say, well, your mother and I, or your father and I, we named you. Did we blow it? Are you okay with that? And just see where it leads the family memories and conversations. And in today's world, right now, this is all we need to talk about right now. The world is in a mess. And unfortunately, the news will continue to be messy because that's the way the world is, but from time to time, just do something that perhaps makes you smile, probably helps you to better relate to people you love, and then just simply say, the time is for me to do my best and say to God, hey, the rest is up to you, because that can be true. I'm Stan Houston. Thank you for your time. Reach out to me because I probably can help you in some ways. StanHouston@gmail.com. StanHouston@gmail.com. Always close with a benediction. All the best and blessings to you and your children and those you love, starting right now. And bye for now.